Welcome to the Business of Apparel podcast. This is the place to learn how to start and scale your own apparel brand and fill it with loyal customers for years to come. I'm your host, Rachel Erickson, owner and CEO of Unmarked Street. I can't wait to share this episode with you. Last week, we had the opportunity to meet the amazing Raquel Vélez, CEO, founder, and owner of Alpine Parrot. Today, we're going to continue our conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Gotcha. That's so interesting. I've never heard anybody really talk about Kickstarter that way. And I think it's more open and honest than most of the advice that you get, like as a small business. I've had a couple of people, suggest that for me too. Have you looked into Kickstarter for ways to raise money? And I kind of always had that question in my head of like, will it really raise money or will it just kind of get the word out?
Yeah. And I mean, could it raise money? It could, but you shouldn't walk into it expecting it to. It makes me very sad when I see a Kickstarter launch and it ends not having met its goal or just barely hit its goal, right? Yeah. Like, so if you have our Kickstarter, we set out with a goal of $10,000 and we raised $60,000. Which is awesome. But the reality is I needed 40.
Yeah.
Right? Like and so there's a lot of psychology that goes into it and nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about it because it's supposed to be this like well-kept secret, but you know what? I just don't care. I think it's more important that people are successful.
Yeah.
Because you put in so much time and energy into it. Wouldn't you rather put a bunch of time and energy and get a great outcome and what you actually need rather than, spend all this time and not hit your goal? Because so there's a lot there.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think that's really, we've kind of talked about this other notion of like, people talk a lot about Kickstarters. Some people talk about like going on Shark Tank and pitching your ideas there. And I see a lot of people go onto Shark Tank. I was watching an episode the other day and they had a prototype. They hadn't even started selling their product yet. Like they had no idea what their numbers were going to be. I felt like they really devalued their company because they didn't know the numbers. And it's just, I think there's a lot to some of these things that get a lot of hype. And then you kind of wonder, okay, well, what's the reality here?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I've heard so many stories about Shark Tank. I mean, you and I have talked about how we need to have a Shark Tank watching party so we can collectively throw popcorn at the screen because it's just like, no, don't do that. That is not good business fundamentals. Like, what are you doing?
I know. Yeah.
But once again, I have some friends who are like, Raquel, when are you going to go on Shark Tank? And I'm like, I will go on Shark Tank when I have a full line and I don't need investment.
Yeah.
That's when I'm going to go. Because I don't need to say yes to the sharks. I just need to hear them. I just need to be on the platform for a marketing opportunity because that's what Shark Tank is. It's a marketing opportunity. Yeah. Like the number of deals that completely fall through, even if they're like, I'm in and they have an agreement, it doesn't actually work. Oh my gosh.
Well, I think it's hard.
Sometimes it does.
I think the idea of obviously there's a lot of success that comes out of deals like this, but I think, I've even always been of the mind, like sharing my brand with someone who might not necessarily know it as well as me can be a little bit scary. And while the monetary, income that you can get from something like that is fantastic, but what are you willing to kind of give up in order to get an investor like that? And how is your business going to be run then? And maybe you will grow and boom and it'll be great. And maybe your partner is fantastic, but I think there's so much that goes into that. And I feel like a lot of people jump into some of these endeavors just because they're like, oh, cool, I get to be a part of this. And at the end of the day, is it really the right thing for your business?
Oh my gosh, I could not agree more. And I think that is something that also isn't talked a lot about, which is when you start your company, it's very scary to think like, what is your end goal? Mm-hmm. But it really is important because I have thought a lot about you and I both know so many other people in this industry and how they've started their companies. And I have friends who started their companies in the basement of their homes with a single sewing machine. And they have slowly grown their company into something incredible, but it's taken them 10 years. They've been profitable every single quarter, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But it's taken them 10 years to get to, a certain point, a certain growth, right? And then you have other companies that it's like they're an overnight success. They came out of nowhere, right? You think of Cotopaxi and Girlfriend Collective and Vuori, and you're just like, whoa, where did they come from? And it's because they have investor dollars behind them. And it's like, well, what is your goal? What do you want out of your business? Some people are very happy creating a lifestyle business. Like it's going to be, I'm just going to plod along and make it happen and do my thing. I have so much respect for those folks because I am the most impatient person on the planet. And I am just like, how do you keep doing this thing? I mean, I'm also a serial careerist. Oh, yeah. I don't know how else to put it. I'm like, I'm on like career number 7 right now, right? It is hilarious. But there are some people who are like, no, this is my life and I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. And I love it. And I can only give them kudos.
Totally.
But I could never grow a business like that. That's just not who I am. That's not my MO.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the way I think of it is you can be 100% debt free, never owe anybody any money, 100% ownership of your company. And it just takes a long time to build what you want to build. Or you can say, doesn't really matter how much of this company I own. I just want to grow this thing as quickly as possible, make as big of an impact as possible, and walk out with some money and be done within 10 years, right? Like, what do you want to achieve in 10 years?
Totally.
I'm like, get in, get out, change the world, make some money, move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But that's me. Not everybody's like that. And I think that's, especially coming from the tech world, gosh, there's so many people who are just like, well, obviously I have to get investors. And it's like, it's not that obvious. You don't have to get investors. I got investors because obviously I'm not going to sit around waiting for this thing to build. That's just who I am.
Well, the market needs it. I think it's not just about like you wanting it to take off. I think it's more about, and I've heard you talk about this before in the past too, like the market needs this product, like it needs to get out there. And you even touched on it before, people go to the stores and try on your clothes and they leave the dressing room with tears in their eyes because they're so excited to be wearing something that fits them for the first time. And I think that's needed. So it is kind of a push to make sure that it gets out there fast, but in a really thoughtful way. I think that's actually like a perfect segue to kind of my next question for you is like, you have put together such a robust way of like wear testing and making sure that the products are like on point before you launch any product. And I think that that's not done enough in this industry. I think a lot of product is just made and thrown out to the consumer. And if it doesn't fit or it's not made well, it just kind of is what it is. So I kind of wanted to prompt you a little bit with that. And like, if you can kind of walk us through the wear test program that you've started and also your trail program, like I think all of that is stuff that not many other people are doing.
Yeah, definitely. So, let's do a very, very, like, I know this is the Business of Apparel podcast, so it's most people should understand how this works, but I'm going to do the very, very quick version of how do you even with apparel sizing, which is, traditionally, a brand says, this is my medium size, and I will find a person who fits that size. I will measure them perfectly. I will create a perfect pattern for them, and then I will algorithmically create all the other sizes through grading.
Yeah.
That is my extremely quick overview of how that works.
Beautiful overview of that. I love that.
And I remember as I was like learning everything I needed to learn before launching this company, there are brands who genuinely are just like, if you're on the edges, well, we don't really care. Like, you should just be happy that you have something made for you, and whatever. We'll make a small amount of it, and if you don't like it, we'll make it in black. And if you don't like it, well, then you don't like it. No big deal. Yep. We'll just throw it away. But at least we can say that we offered it. And And that's just not okay with me.
Yeah.
Especially when the medium tends to be a size 6 or an 8. And I'm working, like, Alpine Parrot starts at size 14 and goes to size 30. So, like, grading up from a 6 or an 8 to a 30 is just a bad idea.
It's very
awful.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just has a really bad result. And unfortunately, we've created a chicken egg situation where apparel companies will grade to a size 22 from a size 8. And then they're like, no one bought it. Obviously, there's no market for this, without actually testing the size 22 on a 22 body and getting the feedback. So I basically was like, this system is broken. Yeah. Let's forget this. Let's do this differently. And keeping in mind that I launched in the middle of a pandemic. Actually, no, I launched 6 weeks before a pandemic. I had all these hopes and dreams and everything was going to be great. And then I couldn't get within 6 feet of another person. Yeah. So, like, fit testing was not going to happen in my first year in business. Not a chance. Fortunately, I literally am my customer. So I made myself the fit model. And so what I did was just like this is where the methodology still remains the same. I made a pattern that fit me perfectly. Yeah. And then I went through and I just applied basic grade rules to it. And I had a grader make the different patterns. I made a whole set of sizes, and at the time was 14 to 24. And then I figured out an ingenious way of testing it. I went to Instagram.
Imagine that.
And I said, I went to Instagram and I said, hey, who's in the Bay Area who might be interested in trying on some clothes? Must be sizes 14 to 24. And I had 10 people who were like, I'll try them out. And I was like, perfect. Yeah. I had 6 sizes, 10 people. I'm going to learn so much. And so I went around in my car and drove around, had like pants in the back of my car, and met with people outside. We had masks. I had a very fancy camera with a nice big zoom lens, and I had them, I gave them a box. It was hilarious. There was a little shoebox with pins and the little clips and measuring tape and elastic and rulers.
Oh, wow.
And I just, and hand sanitizer, of course, and rubber gloves or latex gloves if they wanted it. And then a bag of pants. And I just was like, I just would drop it off and I'd say, okay, use the hand sanitizer. I'll be 6 feet away.
Oh my goodness.
Just put on clothes. I'll tell you what to pinch and what to pull, and just give me your feedback. And I sat there with a notebook and my camera and I just took pictures, and it was amazing because everyone wanted it to work. Yeah. So we made it work. And I had people trying on all the different sizes. You know, obviously if they were more of a size 14, I didn't have them try on the size 24. That didn't make any sense. Sure. But people who were in the middle, it was actually very helpful. It'd be like, okay, try the 18, try the 20, try the 22. What works? What doesn't work? What do you like about it? Got a ton of amazing customer feedback. And then it turns out we come in different shapes in addition to different sizes. Yeah. And so I patterned everybody off of my body, and I have like considerably bigger hips compared to my waist. I am what people would traditionally call a pear shape, if you will. And I had people who were apples, and I was like, whoa, okay, the hips are way too baggy if we fit your waist. Yeah. But if we fit your hips, then you can't close the waist, and that sucks. What do we do? Yeah. And that's when I realized I needed to have more than one fit style. And so then we went back to the drawing board, made another fit style, which basically slimmed down the hips for the same waist. And then I went out and did it again. I made one of everything. We also like figured out, okay, we need to adjust the grade rules slightly based off of real bodies and change all that. Then we had another 30 people try on pants and around the country. Like, so I did this huge road trip around the mountain and Pacific Northwest. And and had people trying on clothes and 6 feet away with my little shoebox with hand sanitizer and a fancy camera and notebook. And I mean, people were excited about these pants. And so it was not only market validation, but it was also customer feedback and getting our grade rules figured out. And so, yeah, it was really important, I think, because we discovered just how much of how wrong the current system is and how important it was to really test these things on a multitude of different bodies.
Yeah.
And so we've just continued to tweak it ever since.
Yeah.
And we can't go to quite the same extent anymore. Plus there aren't the big issues of like pandemic.
Right.
Like we have vaccines now and a better understanding of how the virus spreads. So with our more recent products, like our upcoming flannel shirt, again, I was my own base fit model, but then we made a size run. We tested it on a bunch. We had fit testing events. This time, instead of me going to everybody, they came to me and just had a rack of all the sizes. People tried them on. We took a bunch of pictures and we learned, and then we went through it again. Does it cost more in terms of time? Yes, but I would argue it doesn't cost more in terms of money.
I agree.
It is far more expensive to make a, hundreds of piece run and find out nothing fits than to make a, 10 to 12 piece run and find out nothing fits, right? And then redoing it and just keep doing it until you've got it just right. And then the nice thing is, right, once you've got your patterns, your base patterns figured out, like the grade rules stay the same and you can just kind of go from there. But if you just keep using the same assumptions, you're just going to throw out a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. And whether you're into sustainability or not, that costs a ton of money.
Yeah. And it's terrible for the environment to just keep throwing those
it's awful.
Away too. But
absolutely.
I would say that was one of the biggest things that I noticed when I came into the company last year. Like, I think the first time I took a look at your grades, as someone who's done like grading projects for billion-dollar companies and spent years like digging into global grades and European grades and Asian grades and like how all the different bodies across our world are different, and like learning that, when I looked at your grades, I was like, this looks crazy. This looks so wonky. I'm not gonna lie. And now that like I've gone through the process with you, because I was able to help you with the flannel tops grading, going through that process and understanding like the different body shapes, the different body types, how bodies change in those outside sizes, when you're looking past small to large, it's been super eye-opening and just really rewarding, like such a good learning, I think. And it is so rewarding to see people try stuff on and it like really genuinely fits them so well by using this grade that you basically curated on your own. It's such a huge endeavor and such a huge accomplishment that you've made. I think it's industry changing, seriously. Like, I know I have a couple of friends who work at bigger companies and they're starting to look at extended sizing or adding sizes to their grade, and they're pulling a size run of Alpine Parrot and measuring it and looking to you as a leader in this space. I think that's really outstanding, and it's been really interesting. So I'll tell you a little story. So a couple of weeks ago, I was actually asked to do a quick grading project for a brand here in California. And when I sent it back to them, they didn't need, they only went up to 2X in their sizing. And so I was able to at least apply some of the knowledge that I've learned to that level. And they thought I was wrong. They started to throw out some of my grade stuff. They actually asked someone else to check my work and to kind of redo it for them. And I was like, look, I know that I totally get it. Like, I understand where you're coming from. This looks different, but it's right. Like, I can tell you that this is right. And the knowledge that I've just gained about bodies and can now share with other brands because of you and all the work that you did. And hopefully we can get this out into the world in a bigger way. It's game changing. So thank you for doing that work. I think it's huge.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I mean, it is a game changer because we're not going with the same assumptions and it's, people don't like it. People hate it because it means that it's harder, right? It's not a simple grade. It's not just add 2 inches everywhere and call it good. It's like, no, actually you can't because, and I don't know what kind of language requirements you have on this podcast, but boobs and butts are hard, right?
Well, we're going to start swearing on this podcast before people know it. And it just is what it is. That's part of who I am. So
I know, me too. But I mean, but boobs and butts really are like, that's the big thing. And so, you know, at Alpine Parrot, we acknowledge people have different butt sizes. That's why we have our different shapes on pants. We also acknowledge people have different boob sizes. That's why we have different shapes in our tops as well. And like, you can't just assume that everyone's shaped the same or that they're going to proportionally grow in the same way. And it's very interesting seeing other companies starting to battle this because there are companies that are, so our shapes, they have names because, you know, our, on pants, we have mountain and river, and that the shape of the body kind of correlates to that. And we have forest and coastal, which correlate to cup sizes. And we come up with these, you know, fun, cutesy names, but it's because it's a lot, it's empowering and it's fun. But I see these other brands that are like, okay, well, we have our regular sizing and then we have our plus sizing, and they'll go on their regular sizing to a size 18. But then their plus sizing will start at a size 16W and then go up from there or whatever. They'll do an XL, or a 2XL, which is different from, they'll do XXL, which is different from the 2X. And those are different shapes. And I'm like, that is so confusing to consumers because as far as I'm concerned, a 2X and an XXL are the same thing.
Yeah.
They should be the same. But they're not because the way that they're doing their grading is different. And it's just like, that's really confusing. Or I'm seeing brands using specific fit models, which is great. Like I'm glad that they're picking fit models from the community, but also that shape, I know statistically that shape is maybe not the most common shape. And so, but they're only doing the one and they're like, that's just it. And I'm like, you're literally choosing to ignore massive parts of the population, but they're not willing to sit down and think through it and talk through it. So that's fine. I am here for hire. Anybody who wants to take, you know, my knowledge, I'm happy to be a consultant on these things as well.
I love that.
But you know, it's hard.
Yeah.
To step away from the norm.
Yeah.
But the norm was not working.
Yeah.
So we have to.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah. Well, I think the data that you found is just proving it. So I just think that that's really great. And I think that kind of harkens back to like one of your past careers that you mentioned, you know, like just really being really data driven and being really technical about everything, which I think is needed in the industry. There's a lot of creativity and design work that goes into apparel, but the technical side of it, I think, tends to get forgotten by a lot of brands.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, you and I both have met lots of apparel founders who actually don't know how to even sew. They don't know how to sew. They don't know how patterns are made. They don't understand grade rules, which is not a bad thing, but you're then going to be limited by the people you hire to take care of those things for you. And so if you want to be, again, it comes down to what is it that you want your company to be. I have all the respect in the world for companies that are like, we are only going to cater to sizes, you know, X to Y, and we don't care about any of the other sizes. That's fine. As long as you're open about it.
Yeah.
No big deal. I mean, Do you remember that? There was that one store growing up called it was 579.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember that store? And I was I just remember being 12 years old and being I can't go to that store. I've always been bigger my entire life, and I just was I'm never going there. But at least they were honest. At least they were honest. They were
that was their target customer.
579.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think, that Netflix documentary came out about Abercrombie. So I think a lot of people are getting kind of a window into what that was like too. And I actually worked there during the time that the documentary kind of spoke about. And it was very much, this is who we cater to. And if you don't fit into this little box that we've created, that's okay with us. And whether that was the right thing to do or not, I think could be up for debate. But yeah, there are some brands out there who are very vocal about being essentially exclusive to the target customer that they see as being their biggest customer.
Absolutely. I mean, and Alpine Parrot is too, right? We're exclusively sizes 14 to 30. Yeah. That's who we are. I like to think it's more 14 and up, because if someone who's size 32 or 40 or whatever, if they came to us and said, we really need some pants, we'll figure out a way to make it happen. That's very important to me. But all due respect to people who wear smaller sizes than 14, we're not going to cater to you, because there are many other companies.
There are other options already.
Yeah, exactly. Do they all know how to do grading properly? Cannot say. I am not those companies. But that's not our focus. Yeah. We want to spend our time and energy really catering to this customer that we've identified. And I think that's great. I think that's totally fine. There are plenty of people who are really upset with me about it. They're but I think your stuff's really cute and I really want to wear it too. And I'm well,
that's
sorry.
An ultimate compliment though too, right?
It is.
That a lot of people really want to be wearing your stuff, and that's exciting.
It is exciting. Yeah. It's exciting.
Are you open to sharing kind of what's coming up for Alpine Parrot in 2023?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, so more clothes, more styles. We're launching our bristlecone flannel shirt, which we've done some pre-orders already, but we're hoping to get those out next month, January. So that'll be really exciting. We're going to be launching some other exciting things, and for other weather appropriate things, for the summer and the fall and the winter. A lot of it is finding the right factories and making sure that we can actually pull it off. Yeah. I'm going to be looking for money because I'm impatient. We already discussed this. And really just increasing our footprint in terms of our customer base. So we're already in 8 specialty retail stores around the country, but I want to get into more. Yeah. And see if we can finagle our way into a national retailer. There's a lot of just growth at this point and trying to get the word out. I mean, my husband keeps saying the problem right now is that 90% of the people who want your stuff don't even know you exist yet. So a huge part of it's going to be marketing, creating events, working with partners, and just trying to build the business, which this, but anybody who's listening, you can't do all of the things. Right. So having a team is really important, making sure that you can spread the load, because the CEOing side of things, I need to stop doing product. Yeah. It's just too much. I need to focus on the sales side and the money side and
all those
the
things.
Advertising and the marketing and the I don't think Project Runway really talked about it enough. All of the other things, although there's We were talking about, what's the show on Amazon?
Making the Cut.
Making the Cut.
Yeah, I want to be their business coach.
I know, you should be. You totally should be, because I think that they do a better job than Project One Way about talking about the business side of fashion, but they're still missing so many massive chunks
Yeah.
Of what it takes to run a company.
Yeah. I think even I've just learned over the last year, like being a CEO for the first time, like visibility and marketing and all, like being a good CEO, being a good manager, like all of that alone is a full-time job, let alone
totally
working with clients, making product, like doing the actual work. It's it gets really tough. And in those first few years, you know, it can be really hard to figure out how to balance it all. But you're going into what, year 5? Is that right?
Year
4. I can count.
Yeah. No, it's all good. I mean, yeah, like we can technically say 2019 was the start. So 2023 will be 4 years, but realistically, I'm just thinking, okay, this is the silliest thing, but I'm excited that by April I will have 3 years of tax returns so that I can actually start going out and looking for loans, because fun fact, banks won't give loans to companies that are less than 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
So these are the things that you find out. You're like, I need money. I'm going to go to my local bank. And they're like, how long have you been in business? 2.5 years. Sorry, we won't talk to you unless you're at least 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
You have 3 years of tax returns. So
I was not aware of that. That is super good to know.
Things. Yeah. So many things.
Well, that'll be a momentous occasion. That's another little thing to celebrate when you get there.
I need like a minder to be like, Raquel, it's time to celebrate.
I know.
You did a thing. Congratulations. Celebrate the thing.
Okay, so that should be our New Year's resolution for each other this year. We're going to help each other celebrate the small things a little bit more.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
That's a good thing. We should do that.
I love
it's
that.
It's a lot easier of a resolution than most other ones.
Oh, yeah, I know. I stopped setting those kinds of resolutions long time ago. I try to just, I think this year my goal is to slow down a little bit. So maybe celebrating the little wins is a good part of that.
That's a good one. All right. Accountability, buddy.
Okay.
We're doing it.
I love that.
We're doing it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming on and just talking to me about your amazing company. And I'm looking forward to another year together and many more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. My pleasure. And, anytime.
Yeah, we might do another one. So thank you again.
That'd be super fun.
Yeah,
of course.
Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Apparel podcast. I would so appreciate hearing your thoughts on the show. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. My biggest desire is to help other apparel professionals understand the nuances of our industry so we can all work toward making better product for a better world. If you would like to connect further, I'd love to invite you to send me a message through my website, unmarkstreet.com, where I do weekly trainings through my video channel, a monthly newsletter, and offer so many resources to help you start and scale a profitable apparel brand.